Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Rough Night. And this is a female-led raunchy comedy about four women going to Miami to celebrate their friend's bachelorette party and accidentally kill a stripper and things ensue. And when I saw this trailer, I was super excited. I thought could be a really, really funny film, and I was pleasantly surprised because I literally laughed this whole entire movie. And this is definitely one of the funniest films that came out this year. And the interesting thing about comedy is that it is probably the most subjective of all genres of film, where it is up to your sense of humor to dictate whether you think this is good or not. And for me, I thought this was really funny, and I actually really enjoyed this film quite a bit. And this is definitely up there in terms of comedy so far this year, at least for me. And this was directed by Lucia Aniello from Broad City, and overall, she does a fantastic job of telling this story, does a nice job of balancing the main story with some of the side story elements and making sure everything smoothly fits together and makes sense in terms of the story, and building up to the point with certain small hints throughout the film leading up to bigger portions of the story and the plot later in the film. Did every single scene hit in terms of humor or story? Not necessarily, and I'll get to that when I talk about the writing, but from a directing standpoint, I thought she did a really good job of telling the story and conveying it, and the pacing was very well done, where nothing lingered too long, and you don't feel bored. You're swiftly going through this energetic film that's snappy and has snappy dialogue and style, and really bringing that together. And one thing I was really worried about this was the tone, because yeah, it's supposed to be a raunchy comedy, and then something super serious happens, somebody dies, and at first I was really worried that this movie would take a really dark turn, but I think they handled the tonal shifts pretty well in this film, and never gave up that sarcastic humor about everything, which is important to keep consistently throughout the film and keeping the tone that they're trying to set up. And when darker things happened or some crazier things happened, it all felt like it would make sense in this story with these characters. And I was surprised that this actually hit me on some emotional levels too, with the relationships between the characters and some of those more dramatic moments where they call each other out on how they've been acting and how their relationships have changed since they were in college over these 10 years. And I thought that was actually really resonant, and I really felt strong connections between these characters and actually cared about them by the end of this film. And that was really important since the whole film's based around their interactions, their relationships. Then you get to the cinematography done by Sean Porter, and this was a very well made, well shot, stylized film where it was very bright, it was quick and stylish and hip, and you can tell that this was something made in a more modern time and had that style of that modernist look to it, and had that consistent style and consistent vision throughout the film. And there wasn't any shots that were super impressive where it's like, wow, that camera work blew me away, but everything worked so effectively to build what it was supposed to be doing, and that's the least you can ask for when it comes to the cinematography and the camera work in a film. Now, getting to the writing, Lucia Aniello, along with one of the stars of the film, Paul W. Downs, wrote this together, and you can tell there's this woman scenes, there's the guy scenes, and overall the story is interesting and shocking, and this is really a character driven story, and the characters are fantastic. The five main women in this film, this group of friends, all have very distinct personalities and how they interact with each other. They're not just like cookie cutter characters. They have personality, they have quirks, they have different little nuances to their character that make them stand out. And even the fiance in this film, he might be a little more leaning towards the generic, I'm a really nice guy, out of my league kind of guy with this really, really hot fiance. But the way they put him in the situations and the scenes they wrote for him made that character really stick out, because seeing how he would react in goofy and uncomfortable ways and insecure ways to all these situations. Now, in terms of the dialogue, this was really, really funny, really smart, clever dialogue, and really great, slick humor. Now, in terms, do all the scenes hit? There's some sequences, especially with the fiance, those pull away scenes that go to what he's doing. Some of those scenes are absolutely hilarious and some of the best scenes in the movie. Him interacting with his friends, but him trying to drive there, and there's some offshoot scenes that are just a bit too ridiculous, and I kind of wish they were just taken out of the film, or at least trimmed down to not include some of the more extreme things in it, because it just went too far. But this is actually a pretty deep film with the themes of relationships, and especially with me being somebody who has transitioned from undergraduate college to being a grad student, which is actually a big jump that not a lot of people realize, that that's still a big leap, going from I'm living on campus, living with all of my friends, to now I'm working, going to school, and now I'm just working, and all my friends get jobs too, and those relationships change. And that really resonated in this, and seeing how those relationships change and what you have to do to grow along with the situation for you to keep your relationships and your friendships keep going through those kinds of things. That's a big deal, and this film handled those things in a very real way, in a very interesting way. And the music by Dominic Lewis really fits this film, fits the style, and elevates some of the sight gags and the physical humor and some of the visual humor throughout this film. And some of their song choices in this were fantastic, including one particular scene while they're in a club and doing a dance together. And now the big thing is the acting. Scarlett Johansson does a really good job as the more restrained one and dealing with like all these crazy things happening and her crazy friends. Jillian Bell, at first I'm like, I'm gonna hate her, but honestly she provided different layers to this character and made her more nuanced, where it's not just like, oh, she's the annoying, obnoxious one that everybody's gonna hate. Zoe Kravitz and Alana Glazer have fantastic chemistry in this together, and I really enjoyed watching those two characters interact, and like specifically the sexual tension between the two of them was very, very interesting and intriguing, and you got to see great layers to their characters. But stealer of the movie, Kate McKinnon, because she steals literally every movie she's in. I thought it was going to be obnoxious with her Australian accent, but she does a really good job, and just her facial expressions and her physical comedy are A plus, and she does a great job of stealing every single sequence, every scene that she's in. Paul W. Downs, the co-writer of this film, who plays a fiance, I thought was really, really funny, and I would like to see him in more things. And some of the interactions he has with his character's friends in this film are fantastic. And then one quick offshoot with the side story with these very horny neighbors that they middle-aged neighbors they have. Ty Burrell and Demi Moore were really, really hilarious in the scenes that they were in, and one of the scenes that they were in was absolutely fantastic and one of the funniest parts in the movie. Now, in terms of overall, this was something that I laughed at thoroughly throughout the whole entire film. Did the plot go a little too far towards the end in the third act? I thought it got a bit ridiculous, and I wish it would have focused still more on the tension and the relationships of the main characters instead of going off with something else. And some of the scenes with the fiance really did not hit well with me, and they're enough to bring my grade down a little bit, but still I really, really enjoyed this movie a lot. This is definitely something I'm going to add to my collection. I'm going to give Rough Night an A-.